YouTube land, welcome back to 21RC. Today we are going to be taking another look at the Big Brute. Fresh from its foray into the world of cheesy 80s promotional videos, I am going to be upgrading the shocks with a cheap alternative and also performing a cheap steering mod to stop this happening. Because that's just a little bit annoying. Anyway, first up, the shocks. So, the shocks I will be installing onto the Big Brute are these Fast Track items. Distributed by CML, I believe they are Fast Track's, they are just a CML brand. And they were not $19.99. I got two pairs of these, they were a few quid cheaper than 20 quid a pair, so that's handy. And these are part number Fast 158. If you're interested, these are the 95mm long ones, but they are a few millimeters too long for the Big Brute shocks, so I will be putting an internal spacer in there. Let's take a look at them further, shall we? Okay, so here you can see I've taken one of the shocks out of one of the packets, and first thing we have is a little small baggie of like standoffs and screws and a couple of nuts, etc., and some washers. Couple of bits of rubber tubing, I don't know what they're for, maybe some kind of shock absorber mounting thing instead of using these alley standoffs. Anyway, so they come in a pack. So I've already, as you can see, I've already removed the spring and the lower shock rod. Now, the first thing that strikes me about the spring is it's quite soft. I don't know what the poundage is of that, but it's quite soft, but with the Big Brute that might actually be a good thing. So that might be a blessing in disguise. The other thing I also noticed is with these, with the two ends of the shock, and that is that they have these brass balls kind of fly pressed in. I don't know how they're gonna fare for longevity, but they are only cheap shocks, so I don't know why they chose to press brass fitments in. Time will tell, I guess. So that's those. What I did see also is the preload adjuster is quite loose. There is no rubber O-ring in there, so it kind of just spins around in your fingers, which again, for cheap shocks it doesn't really matter because it's not a competition truck, so it won't matter a single bit, I don't think. Comes with a titanium nitrided shock shaft, as we can see. I don't know, again, for the price of the shocks, I'm not sure how good the titanium nitride is going to be on there. It might rub off after a few outings, who knows. Anyway, so let's just undo this. Oh, before I do, actually, I did try the shock movement, and listen to this. And with that, you'd think there's some kind of oil in there, or very little oil, just a token smidgen at the bottom of the bore. But having undone this previously and had a look, I can tell you that there is no oil in there. What we do have, a little diaphragm in there. It's not the best machining in the world, but it does seem to do up nicely if you don't get the thing cross-threaded. Right, we have a piston here, and that is held on by a circlip. If I can just remove the shock shaft and piston, I will also show you what I found with these shocks. I'll place that there. I don't know if the camera can see this, but on the piston, the holes are not very well drilled, so I'm just going to get myself a small drill and a pin chuck and just gently twirl them out with a known size so that I know how big the holes are. My advice, if you pick these shocks up, I would advise you to do the same, so that way you know how big the holes are in all four of your shocks. And the last thing is we are going to take the O-ring cap off and see what's under there. Let me see, you've got a plastic guide nestled in the cap, and in here it looks like we have 2 O-rings. Let's just prise one out and have a look. So there's one O-ring. I think what I might be doing is taking these out and popping some associated green slime in there. There we have a guide. Make sure that doesn't sod off somewhere. And here we have another O-ring. So we have 2 guides and 2 O-rings. Now how long they are going to last again is anyone's guess, because I've had cheap shocks before and they've been a big pile of pony. So I'm going to reassemble them, all 4 of them, with a known quantity of oil, or known quality of oil, and I'm going to green slime those O-rings upon reassembly, and I will get back to that shortly. Okay, I had my pin vise out and I was just about to run through the holes in the pistons using 1.2mm drill, because that's what I think they are similar, and I noticed that these are 2 shocks from the same packet. Now as you can see, there's a black piston and a white piston. Absolutely no explanation as to why that is. Eyeing them up, they do look slightly different thicknesses as well. Probably only sort of 0.1, 0.2 in it, but they are different nonetheless. Anyway, so I am going to, you can see I have my pin chuck here. Just, if you're in any doubt, just gently wind the holes out. Just so they're free from debris. I say the white one I believe was the worst culprit, and that did actually have something on there, so blocking the holes up. It didn't actually look that good. So now we know that that is a 1.2mm drill, and they are now both 1.2mm in. There we have it, 4 Fast Trax shocks, fully built, ready to go on the big brute. I've put 375 oil in, and I used some shock spacers in there to bring the length down to around 90mm. As you can see, or hear even, that's quite a nice movement. There's not like a graunchy noise in there anymore. And one thing I also noticed, these shock caps, well, you know, you can assume that they're aluminium, but they are aluminium. But also I found that these shock bottoms and these actual cups are also aluminium as well, just powder coated or anodized in black. So that was a pleasant surprise to find them actually aluminium, because normally on most of the shocks they're plastic. Now these are probably, I know they come in a Fast Trax header bag, but they are probably some rebadged item from the Far East and just anodized a different colour. So if you recognise these, just let us know in the comments below. Tell me where else they are available and what, you know, maybe what other name they come under, you know, just for trivia's sake really. So right, they're ready to go on. Once I pick that one back off the floor again, they are ready to go on the truck. And there we go, shocks are all on, as we can see, front and rear. I didn't use the nylock nuts that came with the kit, that came with the shock kit. I kept with the black kit nylock nuts, in keeping with the theme for the rest of the car, fastener wise. So that's got the old black ones on there, because we all know that Kyosho kits come with black fasteners. Well, this one did anyway. Right, so there we go. Shocks on there. As we can see though, I mentioned before that the springs were quite soft. Now it doesn't quite lift the car back up onto full extension, but it's only a gnat's cock out. But I'm hoping that with that, the truck should be able to follow the terrain a bit better. As you can see though, I have wound up the preload front and rear, because I did had them right to the top, and you push the truck down and absolutely nothing happened afterwards. So I've wound that down. There's probably still another 5mm to go on travel for the preload, so you could probably wind them up a bit more. and hope that it takes the truck back up to full travel. Anyway, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. The proof of the pudding will be in the driving, however. What would have been nice is that originally I fancied finding a set of option house shocks to go on here, but if you've had any dealings with looking on eBay, etc., and looking at the vintage game right now, you'll realise that to find a set of option house shocks in good nick would have been, I would have had to get a loan out or some kind of remortgage of my house, because they are absolutely ludicrous money. I recently saw one pair of option house shocks on eBay for around 90 quid. Literally a pair of shocks. So I had thought originally then after that I would look for some cheap gold bodied shocks just to imitate the whole option house aesthetic, but the golds were all a bit sort of tacky, so I obviously plumbed for these just simple grey and black Fast Tracks items. Anyway, right, so that's the shocks done. I'm quite pleased with that. Hopefully that will drive a bit better now. And the other thing we are going to do today is the little steering mod. Let's have a look at that, shall we? So first thing we're going to do is pop off the rear motor connectors. Not teaching you how to suck eggs, but just when you go through, then undo these screws for this top cover. The same one that protects the radio gear from the elements and also provides extra rigidity to the chassis. So that's undone. So we just pop these back through here. Move that to one side. And here we have, as you can see, a Savox 1258. So it shouldn't have any trouble with turning those wheels whatsoever. However, the problem is not with the servo, it's with the servo saver, and I'm just going to show you that now. So while mounting the servo, what I used was those rather large-headed M3 screws that you get with the Savox servo. I quite liked them, and they are such a good fit in these little slots that I thought it suited it rather well. What we have here is Commodore Garden servo saver. It's quite a long caper going on there, isn't there? But the problem is this crappy plastic ring that goes around there. With the servo under power, you can hold that. If I hold the back of the servo there, if I turn this, will have the steering rack attached to it. You can see that spreading quite easily. I mean, from onto the track, that's quite poor performance. So, devise a little something that you can anyone can do quite on cheap. Probably have the parts kicking around in your box like I do, and I will show you that now. Little Phillips screwdriver, or cross-headed screwdriver. Phillips is a trade name, isn't it? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Pop this front cap off. Jesus Christ. Take that off. There we go. Right. There's your plastic ring. Load of old crap. Put that on the side. Now, you guys at home have probably got something like this kicking around off an old model or something. I've got a couple of these just knocking around in a spares box. They're from old kits or old servo savers or I just put them to one side and put them in a box. You never know when you need them. But the time has come to try this one out. We got part of our servo saver there. There's the bit with the notch on that turns the whole thing. As you can see on the back here, you've got this little notch. And we have our steel ring there, again, with a notch in it, albeit very small. You could Dremel that away and make it bigger, but for the purpose of this video, we are going to line that up as such, like so. Get your flat bladed screwdriver, just kind of like wedge it in there, and spread the ring. No rude jokes, please. Spread the ring so that you can get in there. Not a euphemism. It probably is actually. Anyway, right. So we get the front cap. That's now on there like that. So we get the front cap, which also has. See it in the camera, in the light. There we go. Also has a notch on it, and that will line up with the notch in the top of that ring. Once we get it lined up, of course. Because which way am I even going here? Aha, rightio. There we go. Right. That's got to line up. That presses in there like that. So that is all pressed on. So we shall get that cross-headed screw back in and done up. If I hold the back of the service over there and try to move the front bit by hand, that is practically impossible to move. So that tells me that that's an improvement coming on straight away. Now a lot of people, I say a lot of people, a couple of people whom I've mentioned this truck to on forums have banged on about purchasing like Kimbra servo savers and whatnot, and well, yeah, that's alright, but if you've got one of these spring bits kicking around in your box doing absolutely sweet FA, then it's a free mod, right? You've just modified, you've just improved the steering for free, and that is good. So that's that in. Let's put it all back together and take it for a little drive, shall we? So, a little onboard footage there, being a bit creative with the old camera and a bit of driving footage. I think that the whole thing is a damn sight better than it was before. The steering is most definitely more responsive and less twitchy and less prone to just like folding in on itself, so that's that was good. And the shocks, well, they seem to undulate with the terrain quite well as well, so all in all a pretty good fix, and for only a few quid. If you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, or maybe even leave a comment below. That'd be much appreciated. So all in all, I'm having really good fun with this little big brute. It's been a bit of a giggle so far. It's just simple fun to drive. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I shall see you again next time. Ciao for now.